My parents didn't come to my wedding because I got married before my perfect sister. Now their carefully crafted family image is finally falling apart. After being together for 4 years, I, a 32-year-old woman, got married 8 months ago. Everyone attended except for my sister Moline, who was 30, and my parents. Their decision to skip the wedding was shocking, but I wasn't entirely surprised by my sister's absence. We've never really gotten along. However, given our history, I probably should have seen it coming. Let me give you some background on our family dynamics. I can't entirely blame my parents for always favoring my sister. She's been incredibly good at almost everything her entire life. She was the center of attention in every room she entered. From the moment she could walk, she won every spelling bee, science fair, and talent show in elementary school. High school followed the same pattern: class president, valedictorian, and prom queen. Tall, slender, and attractive, she even pursued modeling in college before focusing on her business degree. She landed her first modeling job during her sophomore year, and I still remember it. To celebrate, my parents threw a lavish party, inviting all our family and her friends. Her first professional headshot was framed and now hangs proudly in our living room, directly above the fireplace to this day. That same year, I earned my computer science degree. They simply mumbled, "Well done," and went back to arranging Moline's next photo shoot. After graduating, she immediately climbed the corporate ladder, securing a job at a prestigious company. At 30, she already has a corner office and a company car, making her a senior executive. Meanwhile, I work as a mid-level software developer for a reputable computer company. While I'm happy with my job and it's a good profession, it's not the kind of career parents brag about to the family. Plus, I'm larger and shorter than my sister. Growing up, my mother would make cruel comments about my appearance, sign me up for workout classes I didn't want, and constantly put me on diets. She'd say things like, "Moline never struggles with her weight," or "You could look as nice as your sister if you just put in a little more effort." Even though I learned to ignore these remarks by high school, they still had an impact. Over the years, I've accepted these differences. I eventually came to terms with the fact that my parents never took as much pride in my achievements as they did in Moline's. What choice did I have? For years, I tried to earn their approval by taking classes they suggested, joining clubs they encouraged, and even briefly attempting modeling, a failure my sister never lets me forget. But nothing was ever enough. I was simply the second daughter, and they were completely captivated by my sister's accomplishments. I stopped trying to impress them sometime in my mid-20s. I focused on building my own life, growing professionally on my own terms, and forming connections with people who respected me for who I am. To be honest, things improved after that. Knowing my parents were always worried about appearances, I kept my interactions with them superficial to avoid conflict during our obligatory Christmas dinners and family gatherings. I'd just nod and smile while they raved about Moline's latest job, romantic interest, or vacation spot. Since they had Moline to dote over, they didn't seem to notice my emotional distance. Then at a computer conference, I met my husband through a mutual friend. He genuinely noticed me, truly saw me, unlike my family. He appreciated my dry sense of humor, my coding skills, and yes, even my body type. From the very beginning, he never once suggested I change or compared me to anyone else. He proposed to me after 4 years of dating, when we were just at home, enjoying takeout and our favorite TV show in the background. It was perfect. Naturally, I told my parents I was engaged last year. Their reaction should have been my first clue. No congratulations, just silence. My mother then questioned if I was sure I wanted to rush into marriage, and suggested I might want to improve my physical condition before the wedding. My father barely spoke at all during the engagement party. My husband noticed their strange reaction, which I was too anxious to fully grasp at the time. They huddled over my mother's phone in a corner for most of the evening. My husband later told me he overheard them talking to Moline on the phone, who was clearly crying. They were discussing how this wasn't the plan and how they never expected Rebecca to get married first, based on what he vaguely heard. There were some minor hurdles during the wedding planning. Despite not even being engaged yet, my mother had already created many wedding Pinterest boards for Moline and wasn't interested in helping me choose a dress or venue. When I picked my dress, a simple yet elegant Align gown that made me feel beautiful, my mother merely remarked that it was practical and suitable for my figure. My future mother-in-law, who treated me like the daughter she never had, ended up helping me with most of the preparations. I meticulously reviewed and double-checked the guest list with my fiancé to ensure no one was overlooked before sending out both electronic and paper wedding invitations. I'm certain my parents received theirs because the electronic invitations included read receipts, called, texted, and emailed them several times after realizing they hadn't RSVP'd. My messages were either ignored or met with evasive responses, stating they were very busy and needed to check their schedules. I couldn't waste too much energy worrying about it because I was too busy preparing for the wedding. My in-laws were incredibly supportive, offering assistance with everything from seating arrangements to floral designs. Even at the lovely bridal shower hosted by my husband's sister, the painfully obvious absence of my own family was never mentioned. Despite my parents not being there, the wedding day itself was beautiful. We had a relaxed afternoon celebration after the morning ceremony in a garden setting. Everyone agreed we looked so happy and in love. But there were moments when their absence felt like a physical ache, like seeing the empty front row seats. Or during the father-daughter dance I couldn't have. After the honeymoon and wedding, I sought answers. When I finally reached them on the phone, they claimed they were deeply hurt. They had never received a formal invitation. My mother launched into a lengthy rant about how careless I was, how she had always wanted to help organize her daughter's weddings, and how she couldn't understand why I would exclude them from such a significant occasion. I was baffled by this, certain we had sent them both types of invitations. During the call, I verified our records, confirming we had indeed sent them. Even the physical invitations were confirmed delivered. I didn't confront them about their attempts to gaslight me. I just said I was sorry for the error and hung up. Later, my husband brought up several incidents that revealed their true intentions, such as their surprised rather than delighted reaction when we told them we were engaged, or how they kept making excuses not to help with the wedding planning. He hadn't mentioned these observations earlier because he didn't want to add to my anxiety during the planning process. But in retrospect, the pattern was clear. The idea that the less successful daughter, was getting married before their beloved Moline was too much for them to bear. Their demeanor simply confirmed what I'd always suspected but resisted, that I would never be able to compete with my sister in their eyes. The most depressing realization was that even my wedding day, which should have been a celebration of love and new beginnings, became another battleground in their never-ending war to maintain their ideal family image, with Moline at its core. Moline recently got engaged to someone she's been dating for a year. According to family members I've spoken with in family group chats I don't participate in. My parents are openly expressing their excitement about organizing an elaborate wedding. For her, they're already boasting about securing upscale venues and luxury gowns. And my mother is taking Moline to private fittings at high-end stores. All the mother-daughter time I was never allowed. It's interesting that a large number of our relatives are suddenly refusing to attend Moline's wedding and engagement party. My parents' actions at my wedding apparently became a topic of family conversation. When family members ask why my parents didn't attend my wedding, simply tell them the truth as I see it. They couldn't bear it when I married before their favored daughter. I present the facts as I perceive them, without exaggeration or trying to gain sympathy. A few days ago, my parents contacted me, accusing me of deliberately trying to spoil Moline's wedding. According to them, the relatives they've spoken to are using excuses to avoid attending any of her wedding-related festivities. My cousin, to whom my sister vented, informed Moline that people are hesitant to come because they've heard about my parents' treatment of me. My parents claim that because I'm jealous of my sister's upcoming lavish wedding, I'm spreading false stories. The problem is, I'm only telling people what actually happened. Perhaps they should reflect on their own behavior instead of blaming me for the consequences if the truth makes them look bad. As things continue to unfold, I'm finding it harder and harder to maintain the pretense of a relationship with my parents. Their behavior during my wedding finally made it clear that I would never be enough for them, no matter what I did. Their absence at my wedding is no longer the hardest part. It's coming to terms with the fact that I never had the kind, supportive parents I always wanted. Right now, I'm focused on building a life with someone who truly appreciates me for who I am, but I'll keep you updated if anything significant changes. My first update since my last post 2 weeks ago. A lot has happened. I finally decided to speak with my parents, face to face, about their actions at my wedding and their current accusations that I ruined my sister's special day. After reading your encouraging comments, I felt it was time to lay everything on the table. When they started texting me about their tarnished family history, my parents quickly began making accusations during our phone call, claiming I was jealous of Moline and had planned the whole thing. I did something I'd never done before. I agreed with them, but not in the way they expected. Instead of defending myself as I usually would, I told them, "You're correct. I'm envious. It's not of Moline's career, not her accomplishments, not her appearance. I'm envious of the unwavering love and support you've shown her, which you never even made an effort to show me." There was a pause on the line. My mother then started claiming I was exaggerating and that they had always treated us equally. Something broke inside me at that moment. Feelings that had been repressed for years came flooding out. I reminded them of every birthday when Moline's latest success overshadowed my own achievements. About how my mother canceled my high school graduation dinner when Moline had a modeling callback. About how her prom dress cost more than my entire year's college textbooks. I continued, despite my father's attempts to cut me off by accusing me of exaggerating. I spoke about how it felt to watch them spend years planning my sister's hypothetical wedding while showing no interest in my own. I told them how painful it was to see my parents' seats empty and how my mother-in-law had to help me with everything from wedding preparations to dress shopping. Their reaction was telling. Instead of accepting any of my arguments, they flipped it on me. "Why did you never speak up if you felt this way?" my mother insisted, as if I hadn't tried to talk to them for years. My father went on to say that by discussing these emotions with our family members, I was being unjust and spiteful. My mother then said something that ultimately clarified everything. "We never imagined you'd go to such lengths as to try to ruin Moline's wedding out of spite, but we always knew you were insecure about her success. This is not how we brought you up." I realized they couldn't even hear me. They believed their behavior and my feelings had nothing to do with the entire situation. It was about Moline's reaction. They were more concerned about her impending nuptials than the hurt they had caused me, even during this discussion about their absence from my wedding. I didn't try to make things better. For the first time in my life, I didn't backtrack or apologize. Instead, I expressed my thoughts to them directly. "You're correct on one point. I was raised by you. You instilled in me the belief that I would never measure up, that Moline's accomplishments would always be more significant than mine, that upholding your ideal family image was more essential than my feelings. However, you also taught me that I deserve better than this, which was something you didn't mean to teach me." Before my father spoke, there was a long pause. He spoke in a cool, collected tone. "Maybe it's time for us to stop acting like we're bad parents, since you've already determined that we are. And you obviously take pleasure in seeing us suffer. Since you were family, we assumed you would help resolve this issue, but it's clear you've made your own decisions." The final blow came from my mother. "Perhaps you simply couldn't cope with not being the center of attention. Even though we always tried to treat you both fairly, Rebecca, that's not our fault. You decided to play the victim." I refrained from arguing. Why would it matter? Everything I had been saying had just been validated by them. They were unable to admit their involvement in anything, even in this final discussion. I just hung up and said goodbye. I was surprised to feel relieved after the call. Tears were shed, to be sure, but they weren't the frantic, heartbreaking ones I remembered from my early years. They were liberating tears. For the first time, I had expressed everything I needed to say without holding back or feeling guilty about how I felt. Later, my husband saw me gazing at the sunset from our back porch. He sat next to me and grasped my hand without saying anything. "They're never going to change, are they?" I asked him after a while. "No, but you have," he said, squeezing my hand. "And that is what counts." He's right. It's changed. The young child who frantically tried to win her parents' approval is no longer there. The woman who emerged from that last conversation no longer needs their validation. While acknowledging that my parents will never be the people I need them to be is painful, it's not as painful as holding out hope that they would change. For the first time, I don't really care what happens with my sister's wedding or the family drama. I've had my say, and they now have to deal with whatever comes up. The most peculiar aspect is that I feel as though a burden I've carried my entire life has finally been lifted. Although it's not the happy ending I had hoped for with my parents, perhaps it was the one I needed. The ability to stop striving for love that should have come naturally. My second update. 3 days have passed since my intense talk with our parents, and things have taken a surprising turn. Moline decided to get involved in the drama, but her strategy backfired horribly. My sister sent me a carefully worded message yesterday morning. Her condescending tone, developed over the years, was evident in her text. What you said to your parents was totally inappropriate. They've helped us through every stage of our lives and given us everything. You cannot simply blame them for being poor parents because you are insecure about the decisions you have made in life. She continued the message with her typical blend of moral superiority and thinly veiled jabs. I understand that your wedding wasn't exactly what you had envisioned, but that doesn't mean you should try to destroy mine. There's nothing wrong with wanting a celebration that honors those of us who have put in a lot of effort to meet specific standards. Rebecca, not everything needs to be a contest. I didn't bother to respond. I've learned that engaging with her only provides her with more ammunition. After years of dealing with her manipulative behavior, I simply blocked her number instead. Moline has never been one to tolerate being ignored, so I assumed that would be the end of it. My husband, laughing so hard he couldn't speak, called me at work a few hours later. Moline was apparently unable to reach me directly, so she found his personal number, probably through a mutual acquaintance, and sent him a string of texts outlining the precise reasons why. Our sister relationship has never been good. She began her initial communication to him in a sufficiently professional manner. As Rebecca's sister and someone who cares deeply about our family's well-being, I feel compelled to reach out. However, it quickly devolved into her true motivations. She informed my husband that he had an obligation to help me behave in a more suitable manner because he was the new man in Rebecca's life. The messages became increasingly patronizing. Family dynamics are complex, she told my husband. A professional software architect with an MBA, adding that someone with Rebecca's sensitivity might not understand the bigger picture. She advised him to assist me in seeing reason before I irreparably harm family relationships. Her attempt to play on what she believed to be his social climbing impulses was the real kicker, though. That maintaining good relationships with successful family members like myself could be beneficial for your future. Rebecca's behavior is only hurting her own prospects and, by extension, yours. Having always seen through Moline's facade, my husband found her manipulation attempt hilarious. He particularly enjoyed her presumption that her business rank or the prospect of networking opportunities would somehow impress him. In his own words, "She really doesn't know me at all, does she?" We went over the messages together when I got home that night. I was laughing with my husband instead of feeling offended or upset, seeing Moline's deceptive methods exposed, especially when they were aimed at someone completely impervious to them, was liberating. I learned something significant about my sister as a result of this encounter. Despite all her achievements and success, she is still that insecure adolescent who needs to tear others down to feel superior. It's clear how little she understands about healthy relationships, that she believed she could control me by manipulating my husband when her direct approach failed. She swiftly turned to trying to use my husband against me, which was the most revealing aspect. She used to do precisely that. In high school, she tried to turn my friends against me when she was unable to bully me directly. Different decade, same strategies. With this fresh viewpoint, I now understand how Moline's actions went beyond simple sibling rivalry throughout our early years. She made a concerted effort to maintain her status as the favorite child, always telling our parents and me how much better she was. She had to overshadow whatever I accomplished. She had to point out my shortcomings to everyone I befriended. My response to her games is different now. Her messages would have made me spiral into self-doubt 10 years ago. I would have been upset and hurt 5 years ago today. Simply put, I'm sick of the drama and find her blatant attempts at manipulation amusing. My husband's response was ideal. Rather than getting embroiled in her drama, he merely replied, "Thank you for your concern about Rebecca's well-being. As her husband, I'm focused on supporting her happiness, not managing her behavior. I think it's best if you direct any future concerns to Rebecca directly. Have a nice day." Moline sent one last message after not receiving the desired response. "I see she's poisoned you against the family too. Don't say I didn't try to help when this all blows up in your faces." Ironically, Moline's attempt to assist has further strengthened my resolve to keep my distance from my family's destructive dynamics. Nothing has changed as evidenced by her messages to my spouse. She is still the same cunning individual who feels the need to dictate every narrative and who perceives any deviation from her ideal family script as a threat. Knowing that her attempts at persuasion were so completely unsuccessful is perhaps the most satisfying aspect of the entire incident. She succeeded in bringing my husband and I closer together rather than causing us to drift apart. Completely. Unconcerned by her fears of social repercussions, we joked about her texts and planned a weekend trip that evening. I've come to understand that true family isn't about upholding facades or dictating stories. It's about standing together, laughing together, and supporting one another when someone tries to manipulate you, even your own sister. I'm more certain than ever that I'm better off keeping a safe distance from Moline's wedding drama, instead of getting sucked into my family's never-ending power struggles. My husband and I have decided to concentrate on creating our own happiness. Success is said to be the best form of retaliation, but I'm coming to realize that real success isn't about impressing people. It's about accepting your decisions and surrounding yourself with individuals who encourage rather than impede your own development. By that metric, I feel more successful than ever. My third update. After my sister's unsuccessful attempt to control my husband 2 weeks ago, things have taken unanticipated turns. The situation is getting worse despite my parents' desperate attempts to repair their reputation. I found out through family connections that my parents have been on a frantic quest to correct the narrative. They've been calling each relative, separately accusing me of spreading vile tales because I'm envious of Moline's ideal wedding. They claim I'm just resentful because her wedding will be far more sophisticated and gorgeous than mine was. According to their most recent story, I purposely excluded them from my wedding so I could play the victim. It's funny that they still live in the same house they've owned for 30 years and have the same email addresses since email was invented. But they're claiming I sent their invitation to an old email address and an old physical address. The good news is that their attempts to limit the damage are failing miserably. Our family members don't believe it. In fact, a number of relatives have shared their personal accounts of my parents' history of partiality. According to one aunt, my mother had previously engaged in similar antics at family weddings in an effort to ensure that Moline was the life of the party. The way my extended family has reacted to my parents' manipulation is the most fulfilling development. Important. Family members, some of whom were expected to have significant roles in the event, have stopped supporting Moline's wedding. They may no longer have access to the exclusive venue they were able to secure through family connections. Even a family friend's luxury garment business has unexpectedly experienced scheduling conflicts. At a family gathering last weekend, things reached a breaking point. Seems that when someone innocently inquired about my wedding pictures, my mother became upset. Out of jealousy, she started a defensive tirade about how I had changed after getting married and was attempting to destroy the family. Her tantrum backfired, shocking a number of relatives who were unaware of the circumstances and further damaging their carefully maintained reputation. It's especially ironic that my parents' frantic efforts to maintain their ideal family facade are the very reason it's crumbling. Each time they try to justify their absence from my wedding, they end up revealing more about who they truly are. People are becoming more aware of their deception the more they try to portray me as the bad guy. Family members are now picking sides after previously remaining impartial. Recently, even my father's brother, who had always kept silent to maintain harmony, apologized for not speaking up sooner about how they treated me. He has decided not to attend any of Moline's wedding-related festivities with his family. I don't have to address any of this explicitly, so I haven't. The truth is taking care of everything for me. Moline and my parents always end up revealing more of their destructive behavior when they try to twist the tale. It turns out that all those years of remaining silent and putting up with their treatment in an effort to keep the peace was really just a way of enabling their actions. My husband said it best. They constructed a facade of the ideal family over many years, but it was based on emotional manipulation and partiality. Eventually, it was going to fall apart. I'm doing better than ever personally. I no longer have to worry about trying to win my parents' approval. The stress of controlling Moline's emotions has subsided. I'm not concerned about upholding their ideal family image for the first time in my life. Sometimes the best retaliation is just letting the truth speak for itself rather than taking action. I'm grateful for the community that gave me the courage to advocate for myself. You have no idea how much your guidance and encouragement have meant to me along this path. Sometimes you need to see what true family support looks like from strangers you met online.